today we're together with David Cole, and we will swap podcasts where we will first talk with David, and then afterwards he will talk with us. So we will recommend you go out and listen to David's podcast. We will be out a little later than ours, but once it is, we'll put the links in the show notes. So first of all, welcome, David.
Thank you very much.
We were put together by Rachel, who is running the World School Club
Ah,
Ups, because we both are nomadic and have children and are part of this community. And you were reaching out to her to get ideas about who to talk to on your podcast. And I thought, hey, wait a minute. We do a lot of podcasts on unschooling, but the freedom life is very much about also choosing other ways of doing things differently, quote unquote. And are you part of both, actually?
Yeah, both.
Mm.
Because we do unschooling primarily. We've put our son into some online schooling as well to give him some structure at times, but mostly it's been a lot of
Mm.
unschooling. Our whole second season was not only the interviews, but we did a whole series on different ways of world schooling, from homeschooling to road schooling and even world schooling. So it's just a cool little a bunch of 15, 20-minute episodes on our thoughts on what it actually is. So you probably enjoy that too, since that's your whole gig.
So why don't we start from the beginning? Where are you from? Why and when did you leave? What's up with your setup as a family?
Okay. So we left a little bit after, from what I understand, you guys did. We left in
Yeah.
2019. And so we sold our house in, yeah, June of 19 in Chicago, and decided that we were going to try to make house sitting a part of our World School and Adventure. So we did some house sits across the US until we got on our cruise out of LA to go to Singapore. So that was our way of getting across the ocean. No jet lag.
oh,
How was that? I'm going to interfere with the short version. I'm curious. I think it looks like these big floating malls.
In a way, it is. Yeah, it's just like a giant
Yeah.
hotel. Yeah, it's fun. That was our first cruise, by the way. 22 days at sea.
Wow. Well, walk into the
Yeah,
unknown.
exactly. So we crossed the ocean in comfort, I think. We got to Singapore for a culture shock. Obviously, it's I was really surprised at how that everybody spoke English. I mean, I knew it was the national language, but being from America, you just like you always assume nobody speaks English when you travel. And so you get those little assumptions broken right away as soon as we get there. But then we only spent a couple days in Singapore because it was so expensive. We went over to Indonesia, which was our first goal anyway, because we wanted to go to Bali, meet up with some of the groups, the homeschooling groups there, and then head out to Komodo Island and did that. We did a couple days out there. That's how we really got started. And then we came back, or we went over to Malaysia, settled down for a few months to rest, recuperate, and start working again on the road, since I went months and months without working for the first beginning of our journey.
yeah. David, I would like to go even further back. Why did you as a family decide to pull the plug? What happened in your life? Had it been a long time dream, or was it something sudden? Because many people, they are like, dreaming of it. When they're on a vacation, they're like, oh, this never need to stop. I could just stay on. But life on the road is not a vacation. It is still life. There's everyday chores, there's work, there's family, there's cleaning, doing the laundry, all those things that is part of everyday life.
Ours kind of was a unfolding thing, because when Brody and I got married, we already knew we wanted to travel. Travel was in her background, and we ended up having a wedding over in the Bahamas. And we want to make travel part of our lives. And I jokingly say that she bought me a sailboat for my birthday this one year. It just happened we closed on it the day after my birthday. So we had our sailboat in Chicago. We traveled around the lake a lot. Joked we were going to take it out into the ocean, sail around, and we were fixing it up. And then our little man came along, and things got hectic. It was harder to work on the boat and get things done. So we ended up selling the boat and scrapping that part of the dream. And a few years later, we were just planning, let's go for a long trip and see how we do. So he was 18 months old. We went to Cambodia, where we are right now, and we went to Cambodia, Thailand, and spontaneously China on the way back, and just had an absolute blast. Found, all right, we're doing it with a kid in tow. This is awesome. So we spent the next couple of years figuring out, well, can we logistically make enough money to do it? We both had physical jobs at the time. I was managing a call center. My wife was in human resources at the peak of her career, managing offices all across the country. And we just couldn't figure that we could do either of those online. One of mine that I was doing at the time was I was teaching online college through Colorado Technical University. I found, oh, that's really cool. I can teach that way. And I ended up getting an English teaching job from through a friend of mine. And I'm like, oh wow. Well, we're able to live in Chicago and my teaching income is doing decent. Brody had just lost her job at that point, and so we were like, if we can afford to live on my salary teaching in Chicago still, we can do it anywhere. So let's just figure out how to sell everything and get on the road. And we'll figure out Brody's working situation later. And so that's kind of where it ended up going. She took a job she didn't really want, but we knew we could bank the money, and with the plan that she would quit in a year. And that's what we ended up doing. And we sold our property and we hit the road. So it kind of, to answer your question short, yes, it's always been a plan, but it took us 6 years, well, counting our marriage, 12 years really to get to that point.
No, but another short version that I really like, that I hear from your answer is, why did you pull the plug? Because you're passionate about traveling.
Yeah,
Basically, it's because it's
we've
more
always
important than
enjoyed
other
it. Yeah.
things. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Brody and I, we didn't have kids right away. We waited, what was it, 6 years because we wanted to enjoy ourselves and our marriage. And we ended up taking one domestic trip across the US every year, as well as one international trip usually down to Mexico every year. And so we were like, well, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, it's great. And then during that whole process of trying to figure out how to work online, we met some other families who were doing it and who were also teaching at the same teaching company I was teaching with. And we picked their brains, saw their budget, and they were a larger family than us who actually liked more extravagant things than we do. So they lived a little bit more, less shoestring than we do. And I was like, if they can make it happen, we can make it happen. And we figured it out.
How was your dream versus reality? Has something surprised you? Is there places where you're like, this is not the dream life we dreamt of? This is way different. What are the differences between sitting at home in a job where you're like, oh, I want to travel, and then all of a sudden doing it full time?
Well, yeah, I had some of those same expectations that some people have that, oh, you're going to be on your vacation all the time. And then obviously realizing, no, you're not on vacation all the time. And I say this all the time to people is that, yeah, I work. I do the same things every day that I did in Chicago, but I'm just doing it in a different location. And instead of going out and going to the Sears Tower or going to Navy Pier, I'm going to Angkor Wat or I'm going to the Great Wall of China, depending on where I'm at, Machu Picchu. It's where your location is. So you're able to do the different things as though you were a local, still living your normal life. It's pretty cool.
I think there is this element of the nomadic life. It can be a little bit hard to explain, though it's quite obvious that you can leave your home base, you can leave the culture and country that you come from, but you cannot leave yourself. You are coming along with all of
Yeah.
your stuff in your backpack and all of the tasks that life have. It's not like you don't need to get dental work done, or you don't need to do your abs workout, or you don't need to find some way of taking responsibility to educate your children and yourself. You have to make money, you have to wash clothes. So the not on vacation hashtag is a good one. It
Yeah.
really resonates. And I think the great thing is how this just Do you say you bend it in neon in English? In our language, if something is very clear and very right there, it's bend in neon, like the advert, like the ads in the 80s.
Okay.
So this is how life is, even if you're not nomadic, that you're going to be there with your backpack and your chores and all the things, and you need to cope with that no matter what. But I feel like this recreating what life is everywhere we go just makes it so clear. You need to do these things. You need to deal with these things. This is what life is, no matter what.
Yeah.
And you have to love it and stay present in it. And yeah, then the fun part is we get to walk the Great Wall of China.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's amazing that so many people around the world, everybody has their own sites that they take for granted. There's a waterfall that we found in the middle of nowhere in North Carolina that the locals are like, yeah, we just go there on the weekend. It's just the local park for us. But it was amazing for us. But again, they take it for granted. Us Chicagoans, we take our stuff for granted as well. There's a lot of Chicagoans who just don't go to all the sites because they're just there. They're just part of the city. Um, and the same thing goes for anywhere in the world. And now we get to have that opportunity to see it. So our son gets that opportunity to experience all these things growing up as though they're just part of his backyard. It's cool.
I'm thinking about the passion element. We asked you, why do you do this? Why did you choose to do it? And I hear a passion for traveling, and it resonates because we're crazy travelers as well. And in a way, I'm curious because I'm not sure I understand myself. So maybe we can mirror here. What is it about this? Why? What is it about this that really makes so much sense and keeps? You've been going for a long time. We've been going for a long. Why can't we stop? Why is it so interesting? What's around the next corner and behind the next mountain?
Yeah, we keep talking about, well, what if we settle down? Where would you want to settle down? And I keep thinking, well, why do I want to settle down? I haven't seen it all yet. And I was the reluctant one. I was the
Uh-huh.
reluctant one to get going in the first place. I told her, I have to have this much amount in the bank in case something goes wrong. I have to meet these criteria before we go. She was like, let's just go. Let's just go. I don't care about our stuff. She's more into it about the history and the people that we see and meet. And I'm my son and I are really about a lot of the animals. We love animals. We like the scenery. We love the people. I like the crafts that we see. I just sometimes can spend hours just looking at the craftsmanship of people around the world and seeing how it's different from what I saw growing up, that type of thing. So we all have our own interests and what we love about this, and that keeps us going. And like we keep trying to say, all right, well, where do you want to settle down? What would be ideal for you? And we all have our own things on that as well. So it's really cool that we're trying to find our own path together.
David, the people out there dreaming, listening to two nomadic families being like, oh, we want this life for ourselves, where would you suggest they start? What are the hurdles you need to pass? What is it that is stopping most people in your dreams? What stopped you doing it in the start?
The thing that stopped us the most was, I think, early on mindset, thinking that we had to have the perfect job to do it. And now that I've interviewed, I think over 30 people and we've met way more than that traveling, everybody has a different job. You don't have to be an online teacher. You don't have to be a stockbroker. You don't have to be whatever. Some of these people can have more money during their travels, but that mindset of I have to have it this way can hold people back from getting out there and doing it. I say like the way we did it, doing that 2 week big trip with the child in tow, really showed us that it was possible and that we could make things happen and that the world was way more affordable than I thought it was. So living in America, things are a lot more expensive. I can live everywhere else for way cheaper. Like this giant 2 bedroom apartment is only $350 a month US. And it comes with 2 pools.
It's a question of looking at our ideas about what blocks it. It has to have this before I can do that. I've heard a lot of people who want
Yeah.
to change their career and maybe do something radically different with their lives. And lots of them say, I need to write a book about this first, and then I can start doing stuff. And what I really hear them say, it's a bit like people with addiction, I will stop drinking, and all I hear is you keep drinking until Easter Monday. You know, just like I need to write a book first. It's like, oh, so you don't want to do the thing. You want to have something stopping you. And I think we all
Yeah.
have these mental blocks if we are to do something that seems a little risky or new or harder to do, then it can be really nice to convince
Yeah.
ourselves that something big and complicated is in getting in the way, so that we have to resolve that, because this big and complicated thing we can understand, like getting another job. You have a job, you want another job, that's doable. Whereas selling everything and have a backpack and a child on your hip in China, that's a little bit further away from your comfort zone than you can actually handle. So maybe looking at that, if you feel a passion to start traveling full time, what are the things I'm putting
Yeah.
up here and are they real? Questioning that, I think, is a very good idea.
Yeah, I mean, questioning your preconceived notions is big. Listen to other people's stories, which is why podcasts like yours and
Mm,
mine exist.
mm,
Give people that opportunity to hear these types of things, that things are possible out there. Like the first episode of our podcast this season, we talked with the people that we met in Mexico at a World School Hub pop up that we hosted, and they were thinking about becoming nomads. Most everybody at that pop up were traveling, vacationing families, some of whom were considering traveling full time. This couple, like Kevin and his wife, they decided that they would talk to us. They picked our brains while we were on site there, just like we did to that other family that we met in Mexico when we were trying to figure things out. They just picked our brains, and then we got on WhatsApp. We just talked for months, and they finally decided to bite the bullet and do the whole process go. And their story is really cool because it mirrors mine. It mirrors a lot of the families I talked to out there. And I think it mirrors the same thing that you and I are talking about here: mindset and breaking through those barriers that you have, those preconceived notions. That's really what you got to do. And I think the only way to do that is to listen to other people's stories and resonate with someone.
I think one of the reasons people think traveling is expensive is because they compare it to how they have traveled in their life, which is often on vacation, which is this compressed piece of time that just needs to be the best time of the year. And therefore, you go out and
Yeah.
spend enormous amounts of money. One of the projects I worked on, I talked with a guy there, and they are going to Japan. And I asked him about their budget, and I was devastated for how much money they would use on a 2 week vacation. I'm like, that is full time traveling for 4 or 5 months you're talking about. I didn't say that to him because I was like, okay, yeah, all good. Okay, just thinking. I understand it if it's the one in a lifetime vacation, but it's unfortunate that people compare like the full-time traveling with their vacations where they use so much money on a week or two, because that's not the life all of
Yeah.
us are living. Most of us are living everyday lives with everyday economy, just in new, for us, exotic places. And right now we're in Budapest, and it's, for me, exotic. It's a beautiful city. I love the street art, and we're living here for a month, and it's fantastic. But it doesn't cost much more than living in an apartment in Copenhagen for a month.
Yeah, and I think you're right on that because a lot of people do compare it to their vacations. And the other thing about vacations is that you're kind of living a double life. You're paying your rent back home, plus you're paying that week's worth of rent, which is actually like a month's worth of your mortgage back home while you're on your trip. It's double, if not more, than living your normal, regular, everyday life going on a vacation. Doing this is you can cut the other part out. Whether you decide to sell your home or whether you're going to rent it while you're on your travels, it's up to you. You can have different ways of doing this.
But this is the budget part of the reality here, and I think it's very important to talk about because there's a lot of misconception about how what your budget would be if you went full-time traveling. But I think there's also, it's very important. We meet a lot of people who say, "Oh, I wish I could do what you do. Oh, you have so much freedom. It sounds amazing." And it is. It is. But at the same time, it's not a vacation. It's not like packing your bags, taking your favorite things, having all the time in the world to prepare. I've read the book, bought a new set of flip flops or whatever, swimming costume. You're really excited about the new color and leaving everything behind. You don't have to think about the insurance thing you have to file. You don't have any dentist appointments, you don't have any work things, maybe you don't even read your emails. You can forget about whatever your sick mother, or maybe you can't forget that exact thing, but whatever it is, I mean, lots of real stuff from real life, you leave it behind for a week, 2 3 weeks, whatever your time frame, and the shoulders come down. You're like, and it's so stimulating. You see new things, and you don't have to do all the annoying stuff. It's so nice. I get that. I haven't had it for many years because I live a different life. I have no vacations. There are no pauses. I'm not leaving my life behind. I'm bringing it with me all the time. I don't have a home base. I have my insurance policy problems in my laptop, in my backpack, and it's my problem no matter where I go. I have no time to prepare for the next trip because what, where would that, how, I mean, I'm always on a trip. So, and I
Right.
need to get dental done. We need to get a cast off our son's arm in 2 days from now. He broke his arm in one country. I had to have a checkup in the second country, and now we're whatever. These things are real, and I think it's important, if we have listeners who are flirting with the idea of going nomadic, to really, yes, it's cheaper than you should think. And it can be very cheap if you choose that. But it's not vacation. It's not this peace of mind instant thing. That you have to work for, the peace of mind.
That is true. Yeah, that peace of mind. I know a lot of people who travel that are well off, they have the money to do whatever, and they have everything set up for them. But for the majority of the travelers, they're living like you say, day to day. They've got their everything in the backpack. Their insurance policy is in the backpack. Their whole life. This computer here is my life. Everything on it is needed. My backpack. I don't travel with extra things that I don't really need, other than one or two frivolous things that just because I want that. And you have to have those make those sacrifices for the type of lifestyle that you do want. But it's like it's living your normal life plus this other thing and another thing on top of it. So yeah, you don't always have a vacation, not really. I like to say sometimes that this place feels like a vacation, but then I'm still going back to the work and working that evening with all my students.
I like to use the word adventure. I think it's a better word because I'm not
Adventure.
vacating from anything, but I'm exploring.
It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
David, I would love to talk about freedom because it is a big thing for us. It is among the reasons we are traveling, to be able to choose what we do, when we do it, how we do it, without external forces, you can say, deciding over our lives. And by this, I also mean having a kid in a school. Because your kid is in a school, you are set to be in a certain place in a certain time. You can only, as a family, travel in certain periods. You only have time together with your kids in outside school hours or in vacations or and the weekends. That is also freedom. So it's not like only freedom from a state. It is freedom from office. It is freedom from circumstances that control your life in a way bigger fashion that you can phantom when you just think, oh, you want to be free. No, I want to be free from the constraints of modern life that ties me down in ways I hadn't seen when I lived it. So this is a long-winded question, or way to a question. My
Way
question
long.
is, what is freedom for you, and why is it important?
I've always tried to live my life a little bit outside the norm. I consider normal to be abnormal. Nobody's the same, nobody's cookie cutter. But like I as a stay-at-home dad, I was a stay-at-home dad with my son from the time he was born until the day he left or we left on the road, and then we both became the co-parenting all full time because she was working when we were in Chicago. So I found that I always inserted myself into his life. I was part of that. Whether he had to go to school, I started helping out at the school. When he had a field trip, I was on every field trip. But those were my choices because I wanted to spend my life with my child. And so that carries through into my travels and what I want to do. I don't want to work at a sit down job anymore. I fight that if I have to try to find it. I want to find something that's interesting to me, which is why I teach English to kids online. It's really interesting to me. The time is flexible. I make my own hours for the most part. I'm very creative, so I do a YouTube stuff as well. The podcast is another way for me to be very social and I started it because I wanted a chance to really continue to talk to people and be social in that way, as well as help people out and share some really important information. So all these go back to helping me keep that sense of freedom and do what I want, be where I want in the world. And sometimes it feels a little selfish that I get to live this way, but that comes with, throwing off the stuff that you have in civilization, normal civilization, if you like to say that with air quotes.
And what did you think made you that way? Upbringing or philosophy? Or
I was always an odd one growing up. So I am ADHD, so a little neurodivergent in that realm. So I've always had that little being on the outside type thing and having a little bit of a different thinking pattern and always having to be aware of that when I'm in situations because you're not, then you're just like all over the place and you're wacky. So, and I usually, when growing up, chose to be wacky, be a little all over the place and not really rein it in. As you get older, you learn to rein it in. But I just decided I don't really want to have to do that if I don't need to, and just live myself as myself. And I think that has influenced me and accepting that ADHD is who I am, not using it as ever as really as a crutch, and just using it as this is my personality, this is who I am, and I'm going to live with it.
I think the challenging normal is another interesting thing to explore. I'm curious, and I've been thinking during this conversation. Feels like usually I talk a lot. This time I had time to think. Also about the what is it we're leaving behind and what is it we're bringing with us. And when we challenge normal and say, what does it really mean? We're letting go. You said something down the line of letting go of the modern culture, something like that. I can't remember your exact wording. And I'm thinking, yeah, but I kind of need internet and I want toothpaste and I'm sitting in a sofa. I eat from plates. I cook my
Yeah.
food on an induction thing. I'm not leaving all of it. I might be engaging with it in a different way. So, yeah, I don't know. Can we explore that idea of what is it we're challenging
Well,
with our question mark around the normal thing?
yeah, because I do. I was raised, my dad liked to have stuff. He always had the highest technology, the newest gadget, the best TVs. So I grew up with that mindset that the stuff is great. And so I am a little materialistic in that way. And I do like luxury. I like a soft bed. I don't always like it when we have to have a hard bed because that's the local place. That was a real big problem when we were in Japan. I had to get used to it. Every bed is hard. And the breaking free of that mindset has helped me sometimes to really understand that, you know, all right, I don't always have to have the latest, the newest thing. My computer now is 16 years old, I think, 12 years old, and it's still going great, but I am planning on upgrading because I have to. Because then it doesn't take Windows 11 and it's not going to be security supported. So now I'm only upgrading it because I have to, but not because of materialistic wants. That I think were ingrained in me for the longest period of time, and that type of thing. Is that taking us down to the right road that you're thinking?
Well, yeah, it is questioning. Uh, I'm just wondering, what is it really we're questioning? Because it becomes a little, I don't know,
I
superficial to say, oh, we just question normal. Because a lot of normal we actually do take with us. The thing is, maybe we question it and then we more or less consciously choose which parts make sense for us and resonate with who we want to be. As you said, I don't want to be that materialistic. It's not that interesting and important to me because other things are. And I think this whole sifting through values and sifting through options and doing the work of figuring out what makes sense, living by the question mark, more of what we're doing than rebelling against mainstream. There's a
yeah.
lot of mainstream in the
I
nomadic community, actually.
I think what I really love and some of the aha moments I have had is doing the math on different things. For example, I did the math on how, because we chose school for our first child and we have four children and there is age difference on them, I looked at how long time we as parents would be connected to that school, how many years, and what it meant for the rest of our life, choice of house, choice of work, etc. That thinking about there's a choice here, how does it affect the totality of your life? I find that very interesting, and I like going down these paths, and I like doing the math on it and being like, oh, that was like, I can't remember,
I
it
think it
was
was
20,
26 years
yeah,
we
it
would live in
something
the same
crazy
location. Yeah.
stupid. It was a lifetime based on that. Our oldest daughter, who is now 26, we put her in that school, and our youngest son is now 13, so he would still be there. It was just crazy. The same I did, I got hold of like a media usage in Denmark showing how much media people consume per day back then. And then I put this together with people questioning or being like, oh, I want more vacation, I want more spare time or leisure time. And then I did the math of how much leisure time do you actually have in your life if you go to work 8 hours a day. You maybe have half an hour to an hour commute every way. You need to do a lot of stuff that isn't normally put into the world as like leisure time. Now we woohoo. Then I just looked at the media consumption per day and I'm like, oh, if I cut that out, I will have like 3 or 4 years more vacation in my life than many other people. So I like doing these things, and it's the questioning how we choose to live our life. It is for me questioning normality and mainstream, not because it's normal and mainstream, but because I don't accept to live in a certain way without having tried to think it through. Why is it important to do it like this? Um, and I find these things really fun. I also, at one point, did the math of how much longer, in some ways, I am married to my wife than people who go to work every
If
day.
you had gone to work, maybe don't judge other
Yeah,
people. Say
no,
your choice of staying home instead of staying in an office.
yes,
How many more hours did that give you?
yeah. So I've gotten so many more hours living together with my wife and my children by changing my life around to staying at home and working from home. And that is just fascinating to me. And it's like very simple math. It's just multiplying stuff. I'm not a math genius in any way. It's just looking at it, being curious and saying, oh, and then seeing the numbers and being like, okay, I can see this is a fun way to live.
Yeah. Okay, we've now been traveling as long. I think yeah, this is going on. My son's going to be, he was 6 when we left, and he's going to be 13 now. So half his life has been traveling. And that first half, my wife worked full time. I was a stay-at-home parent. She felt like she never got time with him as a little one at that age, bedtime. So a lot of times she's coming home from work, and with the commute in Chicago, sometimes she was getting home after I put him to bed. So there was some days where she never ever actually got to see him, which was really sad for her, and it's a sore subject at the time. Now she's got all the time in the world, and sometimes I think she's his favorite parent. She gets that extra love and extra attention that she didn't have for all those years. And yeah, if you do the math on it, it's crazy because it's not just, oh, I go to work for 8 hours a day. no, I also have commutes and this, and what are you missing during those 8 hours of the day that you're at the office? It wasn't just her time not with him. She and I had to reconnect on a totally different level, spending this much extra time together now that we were not working anymore. We were in the same house with each other, sometimes studio apartments, or not to mention the whole 2.5 year drive that we did in South America, where we were in a car all day together every day, sometimes camping, and just this tight, close knit family living for a couple of years. So I get your idea of doing the math on it. I actually now I want to go do the math on
Yeah,
it.
it is
So may
fascinating.
that be the two recommendations from this, maybe, or two of the takeaways that could be from this podcast. Go do the math on fun stuff, do some random multiplication on how you spend your life. And then the other one, please enjoy the question mark. When you question things, you realize what's really important. I was thinking about when you talked about freedom before, how freedom for us and freedom for you, I suppose, is one of the big freedoms is to be location independent. But I think for some people, freedom would be to have a really awesome location, not have to think about it, not have to figure out language and logistics and where to buy the organic zucchini tomorrow, all these things. They are set so we have freedom to do whatever is important for that person, which is totally fine. It's questioning what kind of freedom do I need that gives the real freedom to choose what is important. Did that make sense?
This is true, yes. Yeah, everybody's got their own sense of freedom for them, their own sense of wants and needs.
Yeah.
And in questioning the question, they can get there.
And you figure out what it is. Sometimes you can, in some phases of life, live a little mindlessly, doing what the neighbor does, doing what the norm is, doing normal, whatever that means. But if we start questioning things, then we figure out what we really want, and then we can get it.
Yeah. David,
Let's
for
wrap it up.
people listening to this podcast, they want to know who you are, listen to your podcast, and hopefully also listen to the episode you will air with us. So please plug away. How do people get hold of you? Where do they find the podcast?
Well, the podcast is on all the platforms out there. We do generally do it as a video podcast, but you can get it as audio as well through Spotify and Apple and all that. We're on, if you go to find our blog at ouroffbeatlife.com, ouroffbeatlife.com, you'll find access to the podcast there, a lot of Brody's old blog posts. She's really great at talking online, trying to provide as much helpful content as possible on there. But if you want and you're interested in the podcast, it's available as well through the site as well as on those other platforms out there. And we're even trying to do more and more with YouTube as we go along, as we find time to get those episodes or those videos edited and put on there of our travels. So we try to show some really cool places we've been, what you should do when you go there. My most recent one is I literally just did a 10-minute walkthrough of this apartment and what you can get in Cambodia for $350 a month. So, yeah, again, our offbeat life.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Perfect. Thank you. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you
It
today.
really has.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you
been
for the
awesome hanging out with y'all as well.